What is it that separates a pretty good company from a truly legendary one? I mean, the kind of company that lasts for generations, that becomes an icon. Well, a massive research project dug into this exact question. And, let me tell you, the answers are not what you'd expect. So, let's dive in.
Okay, so just think about it for a second. If I asked you right now to build a company that would still be thriving 100 years from now, what would you focus on? What do you think that secret ingredient is? For most of us, our minds probably jump to a few of the usual suspects.
You know the conventional wisdom, right? It's the playbook we've all heard a million times. It all starts with a eureka moment, that one brilliant idea. Then, you need a larger-than-life, charismatic leader to rally the troops. Of course, the main goal has to be maximizing profits, and you absolutely need a detailed, long-range strategic plan. It just sounds right, doesn't it? It's what we're all taught to believe.
Except, it turns out they're wrong. All of them. The massive 6-year study that Built to Last is based on didn't just question these ideas, it completely shattered them. The evidence showed that the truly great, the visionary companies, did things very, very differently. In fact, the first step to building an enduring company is to unlearn almost everything you thought you knew. And this brings us to what might be the single most important idea from all of the research. It's a really powerful analogy that completely reframes what a leader is supposed to do, so you have to ask yourself, are you a time teller or are you a clock builder?
So what does that mean? Well, a time teller is a genius, right? They see a problem, they have a brilliant idea, and they can tell you what time it is. But what happens when that genius isn't around anymore? A clock builder, on the other hand, doesn't focus on just telling the time. They focus on building a clock that can tell the time forever, long after they're gone. Their ultimate creation isn't the product, it's the company itself. And here is a perfect real-world example of this. On one side, you have George Westinghouse. The guy was a brilliant, time-telling genius. I mean, he invented the AC power system that literally won the War of the Currents. But then you have Charles Coffin over at General Electric. Coffin didn't invent a single product, not one. Instead, he built the General Electric company, the organization, the system, the clock that could keep on ticking and innovating for more than a century. Westinghouse's greatest creation was the AC system. Coffin's greatest creation was GE. See the difference?
You can even see this on a national scale. Think about the founding of the United States. The founders didn't sit around and ask, who would be the best king to rule over us? No, they asked, how can we build a system, a set of processes that will produce great leaders long after we're dead and gone? They were building a nation that could endure. They were the ultimate clock builders.
So, if these legendary clock-building companies aren't relying on the old myths, what are they doing instead? Well, they operate on a powerful idea that the researchers called the genius of the and.
See, most of us live in a world of or. We think we have to choose. Do we want low cost or high quality? Do we want stability or progress? Do we follow our ideals or do we make a profit? Visionary companies just flat out reject that kind of thinking. They reject the tyranny of the or, and instead, they embrace the power of and.
Let's break this down. Here's the first paradox. Visionary companies have a core purpose that goes way beyond just making money. Take Merck, for instance. Their core purpose is about preserving and improving human life, and they are absolutely relentless and pragmatic about making huge profits. Why? Because they know that profit is the fuel that allows them to chase that higher purpose. It's not purpose or profit, it's both.
And here's another one. These companies have a fixed, rock-solid core ideology. Think about the famous credo at Johnson & Johnson. It's been their North Star for decades. It does not change. And at the same time, they have this restless, urgent drive for change in everything but that core. The values are set in stone, but their strategies, their products, their practices, those are always evolving.
And finally, one more example. They are deeply conservative when it comes to that core identity. Boeing, for instance, has always been fanatically focused on being the absolute leader in aviation. That's their core. And they make these huge, bold, risky bet-the-company moves that push them into the future, like they did when they gambled everything on the 747 jumbo jet. Preserve the core and stimulate progress. That, right there, is the genius of the and.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually put it into practice? How do you stimulate all that progress? Well, visionary companies use a very powerful tool to get it done. They set what the researchers brilliantly called a big, hairy, audacious goal, or a BHAG for short. Now, a BHAG isn't just a quarterly target, it's a moonshot. It's a challenge so huge and so daunting that it feels almost impossible, but it's so compelling that it grabs people in the gut and unifies all of their efforts. It's the kind of goal that gets the entire organization fired up and out of bed in the morning.
This is, without a doubt, the most famous BHAG in history. Notice, JFK didn't just say, "Let's improve our space program." No way. It was a crystal clear, incredibly compelling, and absolutely audacious challenge with a deadline. We will go to the moon in this decade. That single goal galvanized an entire nation and, well, it literally changed the world.
And visionary companies do the exact same thing. Back in the early 1900s, Ford's BHAG wasn't just to build cars, it was to democratize the automobile. In the 1950s, when made in Japan basically meant something was cheap junk, Sony's BHAG was to completely flip that global perception on its head. And in 1990, Sam Walton gave Walmart a very clear BHAG, become a $125 billion company by the year 2000. You see, these aren't just goals, they're quests.
So it really all boils down to this simple two-part framework. First, you have to discover and define your core ideology, those timeless values and that core purpose that will never, ever change. That's the soul of your company. That's what you preserve. And then you set a big, hairy, audacious goal that stimulates all that forward progress and forces the organization to stretch and grow, all while staying true to who you are.
Which brings us right back to that central, powerful question. Building something that lasts isn't about being the lone genius with a single great idea. It's about being an architect. It's about building a system that can thrive without you. So the question I'll leave you with is a simple one. In your work, in your life, are you building a clock or are you just telling the time?